Lafayette Live with Lafayette City Parish Councilman Kenneth Boudreaux joining us in studio this morning. And good morning to you.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure to be here. Look forward to it. Everybody's bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and it's great.
In the win column, we were joking before about, hey, when we wake up, that's a pretty doggone good day.
Oh, yeah. Look, even if something is hurting or a little stiff, hey,
we woke up.
We woke up. That's right.
You can't argue with that. All right. So let's try. We got a couple of issues here we definitely want to try to get to and tackle. First off, I wanted to ask you about what ended up happening with the 1-year extension of the Redflex program and what you think might happen now in this next year. You think it'll be a lot of review into this?
I think it's going to be some review, which there should be. There'll be an opportunity for the new administration to wrap their arms around it, which they should be given the opportunity to do so. And the public could continue to chime in. I could tell you that we hear from both sides. There are some people who are totally 100% against it. There are people who are totally 100% for it. I could tell you that I supported the 1-year extension, as the majority of the council did, and it serves a purpose. I do believe, no doubt, that it is about safety, that it has changed driver behavior. But I was one of the first people to go out and say, but it also makes money. And we needed to stop denying that or pretending like that was not an issue. I said it then and I say it now. It makes money. And what I like to tell people, just because something is about safety, there's nothing wrong with it generating revenue. So it's no different than, like, for instance, I love guns. I own a number of guns, and they encourage you to go to safety classes.
Absolutely.
They're not free. Okay. When you go to driver's ed, it's about safety, preparing for your license. It's not free. So I think some people said because others got out there and said this is about safety, that they shouldn't have never, ever made money. I'm telling you that it has improved conditions on our roadways, which we are in desperate need of, but it has generated a revenue pool that has allowed us to do some things, in particular in our police department, that otherwise we would not be able to do. And let me just say this, Bernie. I led the effort to tweak it over the years since its inception, since Tony Trammell and former President Durrell brought it forward, that we had to correct some things like where they're located. We had complaints. I heard them. Who deploys the vans? The police department. The same people who we said we want motorcycle cops here, here, and here. Well, we don't have them. And we don't have the funding to do it. So those same motorcycle cops say where the van goes. Okay. So it's little things like that. What the money is used for. Who controls the review? You know, we had this adjunct person who was doing things. Retired law enforcement officers from traffic reviews these. So it's a work in progress. It may still not be the perfect situation, but for what our needs are here in Lafayette, I still believe it's a good thing. So in another year, we'll come back and hopefully it'll be even better at that time.
Now, from a different money standpoint, I'm assuming they'll take time, because a lot of people have said, if we're going to do this, let's do it and get all the money from it.
That is a challenge. And it's a challenge that they knew going in my opinion. It's a civil matter, so it's much, much more difficult. We had the issue about it affects your credit rating. Well, then people realized that there was no agreement, like when we get our credit cards. So that became a challenge. Well, guess what happened? We say, okay, let's consider bringing these people forward. Well, no one wants to sue their own constituents. Only certain people sue their own constituents or their own governments. Everybody don't do that.
Right.
but so that was something that I don't think council members could have gotten their arms around. We're going to start suing people who pay the taxes within this city and parish. So we have to work on that. How do we do better on collecting? Right now we're about the 50% tile as far as collections are concerned, dependent upon the honesty policy and people just doing what's right. We got to see, how do we improve upon that? How can we make that better? I don't have that answer yet. And hopefully within the year, that's something we could look at.
Okay. I want to talk with you about, there has been a lot of discussion about whether or not and of course, the police and fire civil service making the decision, saying as far as what our chief needs in terms of qualifications, being a 4-year degree. So I'm kind of curious, did you hear from constituents a lot on the issue, and what's your opinion?
Quite a few. Heard from quite a few people, and overwhelmingly, people feel that the police chief requirement should be tiered as the mayor president proposed. as the state examiner of Louisiana proposes, and as every other major city in the state of Louisiana has, inclusive of New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Shreveport, Monroe, Alexandria. So that's a no-brainer. It's not dumbing down the position. Police is one of those organizations that experience and training probably we could say that it outweighs education, but education is still important. My view is that it doesn't take away the college degree mandate. It just adds other options. Obviously, with the less the education, the more the experience. What I shared with one of my fellow council members is this. Look, what would you think about a person who's been in this same department and worked in every single division for 25 years? Okay. He's a veteran of the military, has served his country, which is one of the most honorable things to do, and then come back and is a graduate of the FBI Academy. Now, I take that against a person as it is today with a 4-year college degree in any subject matter. Like, for instance, my degree is in general studies. So let's say I went to work for the police department and I was there for 10 years with a general studies degree. What would you prefer?
Yeah, do you want
a 4-year
years?
degree with 10 years of patrol, or 10 years of evidence, or 10 years of something, which you don't get to narcotics and internal affairs and all of those administrative things and training until you get to that upper plateau. So you're going to probably be a patrol person for the most part. So you want 10 years of patrol in a college degree versus a military veteran, a 25-year veteran in every division, and a graduate of the FBI Academy, which most people will say arguably is the greatest law enforcement training institute in the world. So that's where I'm at with it. That's where the majority of the people are. Unfortunately, the Civil Service Board didn't get there. They're somewhere else. But this is the thing that concerns me even more than that. I always hear people talk about liabilities and suits. And I am telling you, Bernie, that there is a document on record with the Civil Rights Division of the Office, Department of Justice in Washington that came out in 1989 that says that because we were under consent decree at that time, that you cannot negatively impact women, blacks, African Americans. It listed a group. They were a protected group. And I could tell you that there is a person hired prior to 1989 who's affected by this. I am concerned that we have put ourselves in a liability position by doing so. This is the unique thing. Police and fire civil service is very autonomous. They once they are appointed, to keep the politics out of it, which hasn't gotten into it, but to keep politics out of it, they give them a lot of authority and power. But they are doing things that puts the city and parish of Lafayette liable. Without any input from us. That concerns me. So that's one of those flawed situations of government on something was structured and not addressed over the years.
Unintended
because the letter that I'm speaking about and the commitment came from the civil service director who works for the consolidated government. And the assurance came from the city of Lafayette that these classes would not be negatively impacted. It didn't come from the then civil service board. You see? So they're taking these actions, and this liability comes on the city, and that's one of the things that is being looked into now. How do we protect ourselves from that? So, it's an unfortunate situation. You and I, last time I was here, we talked about race in Lafayette.
Yep, we did.
This is one of those quiet race issues. No one said because the interim chief is black. No one has said that it seems like the mayor president wants to appoint a minority, but it's one of those silent issues because I have not seen Majority Lafayette come out. I have not seen Lafayette Strong come out on this one. I have not heard from people I would like to hear from on this issue because it's a touchy-feely type issue. All you've heard is from people like the NAACP, and so it looks like it's a black versus white issue. And then you have this board made up of all white males. So, you got these little racial identification things, like kind of like the school system, racially identified situations. You got those racially identified, but no one wants to say race because that's what you and I talked about last time. We are scared to talk about it, and we have to ask what is wrong. And the majority of the friends that I talk to who are non-black, when I talk to them and they talk about the fact that the interim chief has solved 3 murders, three under his leadership. Let me correct that. Under his leadership, And this new team he has put together has solved 3 cold cases, on the brink of closing out more. The unity within the department is greater than it's ever been. The camaraderie is better. The morale is better than it's ever been from what I'm hearing from officers. But no one wants to get out and say, you know what, y'all need to do the right thing, other than people who look like the interim chief, which then creates that division that Lafayette says we don't have.
So what would you recommend? So for people who say it's an issue of experience, those people you're saying just need to get up there and be more vocal about it.
They need to be more vocal, and they need to contact people. They need to make Lafayette, we need to show truly where Lafayette is on this issue. So, and I don't want, again, I want to be clear. I think a degree is a good thing. Mm-hmm. To me, it puts you in a better position. What I'm saying is that we have to listen to the people who are most greatly affected. Both professional organizations of the police department supports this. The Lafayette Police Department's union, as well as the Magnolia State Peace Officers Association, which is a statewide organization with a local chapter. The Office of the State Examiner recommends and support this. This is the person, this is the agency that administers the tests for chiefs of police all over the state. Okay. The mayor president of this city, who was elected by the majority of the people, who I think should have the right to have his desires on what he wants at least strongly considered. He wants this. And I certainly stood behind it as vice chair of the council. I am the only councilman who has made a public position. Others may have privately said something else. I don't know that. But what I'm looking at is that you got some pretty serious key players who is saying this along with the public, but there are still others from the public who needs to speak out and say, let's do what's right. Because if we get this wrong, shame on Lafayette. Mm-hmm. This is an opportunity.
At that point, do you think a suit may be filed, or do you not wish to speculate?
I can tell you right now, I know without a doubt a suit is going to be filed, because it has already been indicated it's going to be filed, and a suit should be filed, because unfortunately it's like the old civil rights. These things, I don't know why we can't solve them locally. I don't know why we should go. We have to go to Washington to address these issues.
But don't you think it's because of what you said before? We as a community, we don't want to have that conversation.
That's part of it.
Because I think I think some people, or no, let me not say that. I think people in general, we believe what we believe, right? And then when you go to have a discussion, people are also afraid to say things because they are afraid they are going to offend somebody else.
They're going to offend. They're going to be judged. They will be exposed, things like that. And, of course, the officials in these matters don't have an option. Mm-hmm. Either you're going to stand up and do what's right, or you're going to remain silent and, again, try not to be exposed. And that's from top to bottom, all parties included. So you're right. That is the reason. So the only other alternative there is to now have to go to Washington and revisit all of the ills and the negatives and like we say, bring out all that dirty laundry again and run it through the wash yet again, just to get people to do what's right. And what most people admit to what is right, but say, you know what, I just
they
can't
don't want to make a public stand.
They don't want to make a public stand.
Councilman Kenneth Boudreaux joining us in studio this morning. I want to thank you for your time, as always.
Oh, it's
a pleasure
to
come over. And
I know our list is so long, we just can't. I mean, how do we get to everything? We haven't talked about recycling. We haven't talked about so many other things that I know it's important and that the listeners want to know about. But you know, anytime.
Well, then we'll have another date.
We'll have another date.
Maybe we'll have another date next week.
Hey, maybe.
Okay,
let me know.
Good. Okay, that sounds good.
Thank you.